Charlie Casserly's mock draft presented by Sprint.
Well, first of all, we got the Lions. First pick. Who do I think? Matt Stafford right here. Why? They have a playmaking wide receiver in Calvin Johnson, potentially the best in football, a good running back, but they really don't have anybody to get him the football. Stafford can make all the throws, and he's the guy that can give a face to the franchise. The Rams. First priority, offensive line. They got to get better there. I think the discussion is going to be Jason Smith, Eugene Monroe. Why Jason Smith? He's more physical in the running game, and I think that tips it in his favor. Next up, the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're facing the best player in the draft, Aaron Curry. They got a need in the offensive line, a need in the defensive line, but how do you pass the best player in the draft when it's your first draft? That's what I think the Kansas City Chiefs will do. Now, we got the Seattle Seahawks coming up next. They would have liked to have Aaron Curry to fill a need at outside linebacker, but guess what? They want an impact player. That's what Jim Mora Jr. told me. He wants to get the running game going. I think it'll be Chris Wells in a shade over Michael Crabtree, the wide receiver from Texas Tech. And speaking of Crabtree, hey, Eric Mangini told me he's going to take the best player on the board. Who's the best player on the board? I think it's Michael Crabtree. Remember, Braylon Edwards had an off year. They traded Kenneth Winslow. They don't have another proven wide receiver. Crabtree gives him a playmaker at wide receiver. Eugene Monroe, hey, they got help in the defense. They need help in that defensive line, but they need help in the offensive line too. When you have a Pro Bowl quarterback, franchise quarterback, you got to take the left tackle. You take Eugene Monroe. He's the heir apparent to Levi Jones. Now we got the Raiders. They need help at wide receiver. We know that. But they've got some young guys they like. How about Andre Smith? They really want to solidify that offensive line. Doesn't this guy look like an old-time Raider? You know, a big mauler guy, long arms. Hey, how about next? We got Jacksonville. Since Jimmy Smith retired, they haven't had a proven wide receiver. They got a playmaker in Maurice Jones-Drew. You need to get another playmaker on that offense, and that's Jeremy Maclin, the wide receiver from Missouri. Next up, the Packers. Hey, they need help at the offensive tackle position. They need a cornerback. But you know what? They got to have a bookend to Aaron Campman. That's what I think Brian Orakpo can be. Two big physical outside linebackers in the 34 defense is what they'll have. And now we come to the 49ers to finish the top 10. Well, they're going to talk about an offensive tackle, which Mike Singletary told me that was their number one need. But you know what? How do you pass a quarterback when you're not settled to that position? I think Sanchez wins out in a close argument over the offensive tackle position. What do I want to watch here? Watch number 3, Kansas City. Aaron Curry's there. The Chiefs don't have a second-round pick. I think they can make a deal here now, maybe with Seattle or Cleveland, get that second-round pick back. The next set of 5 picks, B.J. Raji, defensive lineman, Boston College. Cincinnati coached him in the Senior Bowl. They really like him. I think that's going to be the debate in their war room. Monroe versus Raji.
Charlie Casserly, good reasoning and good energy. Charles Davis, good to see you. We start with you at the top with the Lions and Charlie's decision to give them Matthew Stafford instead of one of the left tackles and also instead of the linebacker Aaron Curry.
Paul, I think short of a deal for the Lions, I concur totally with Charlie because I saw Matt Stafford going to Detroit with the first pick on my board too because I think they'll follow the Falcons' model of last year. Get the quarterback first. And remember, the Lions have a pick at 20 and another pick at 33. Get a face on your franchise. And remember this, besides his apparent talent, Matthew Stafford has been saying all the right things. He wants to go to Detroit. He wants to embrace that challenge. He wants to be the guy to break the Bobby Lane jinx. And he has all the tools to do so, and they have Dante Culpepper already in hand to give Matthew Stafford a chance to break in gently.
I think a couple things here. Aaron Curry, I think, is the best player in the draft. And I think Detroit probably would acknowledge that. But one of the things they would face if they took Aaron Curry is money at the linebacker position. They got Julian Peterson. They got Ernie Sims there. Now you add the first pick in the draft. That's a lot of money at one position when, in fact, you can't really stop anybody on defense, even if you add just one more player in Aaron Curry, and you can't score on offense. So I think you take Matthew Stafford, but I tell you what, I'd go slow with this guy. He's a young kid. I'd sit him. Let Culpepper play. Let him sit like Carson Palmer did for the year and learn.
Charlie, no surprise that you are going offense for the Seahawks at 4. Little surprise that we see Beanie Wells going in that spot. Why the running back instead of a left tackle or wide receiver?
Well, I think in the offensive tackle, when I talk to Jim Mora Jr., and when I say it's slow, it's easier, okay? He told me, hey, they expect Walter Jones to be there. They signed Locklear to an extension, Sean Locklear. Okay, Ray Willis, they signed him to an extension. So they got 3 tackles under contract. Now, he did admit they could take a receiver, and so I think it'll be a good discussion there between Crabtree and Wells. This is just a hunch on my part. He told me he wants to have a signature running game, a good, strong running game. I think Wells gives them to it. They got Hushmanzada, they got Branch there at wide receiver, they got Burleson, so they got some depth there.
You know, Charlie, it's interesting you bring that up about Walter Jones because, remember, he's coming off a microfracture surgery, which doesn't always seem to go quite that well for the NBA guys. And he's 35 years old, which is why I think a lot of us thought left tackle. The Chris Wells selection, a little bit of a surprise, but sound reasoning. Gives them a lot of thump in the running game that Julius Jones and TJ Duckett may not have given them in the force that they want. I look back at number 2, you explained that one. Jason Smith instead of Eugene Monroe, who you like a little bit better, but you say Jason Smith more physical, you know the Rams organization. And as we go on down the line, the surprise that jumps out, Andre Smith. And the only reason I say that is he still in the top 15 amongst the NFL people based on his workouts and what happened in Indianapolis, going to the Raiders at 8?
Well, I think as to whether he's in the top 15, I really believe that. There's no question in my mind, and again, we're all guessing at this point here, that he will go in the top 15. I think he'll go in the top 10. Now, here's the Raiders. Raiders face a dilemma because if they don't get a receiver here, can they get one later? And they really need a receiver. But they've worked hard to get this offensive line better. So I could see Macklin as a very sound pick here. And this is just, again, a hunch on my part. You take Andre Smith. Now, they may have to move him over to right tackle, but he could line up at left tackle for him. You know, I think he's better than Khalif Barnes, who they signed from Jacksonville. And they got Eric Pierce over at the right tackle, so they have tried to get better there. But in talking to Tom Cable and the Raiders, the theme to me has been they want to get that offensive line solidified. So I think Smith can do that for them.